Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be taking apart a Smith & Wesson J-frame. Smith & Wesson's been around a long time, man. 1852, I think, when it was the Volcanic Arms Company or whatever. Smith & Wesson was the first cartridge firing revolver adopted by the U.S. military. In the 1899, they created the 38 MP military and police, also known as the Model 10. Was pretty much every law enforcement officer across the country carried one of those. Made a lot of big bang cartridges. Their Smith & Wesson's name is on a shit ton of cartridges, the actual calibers and stuff like that. They see 35, they built the 357 Magnum, and 55, they built the 44 Magnum, which really didn't get popular until the 70s because of Dirty Harry. So there's like 20 years where it was the most powerful production handgun cartridge in the world, and like nobody gave a shit about it until Dirty Harry, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted one. Until they realized how much recoil they had, and they promptly traded them all back in. This is a J-frame. This is the smallest frame they make for the revolvers. This is actually a Model 36, a little older. It's kind of rusty. Smith still makes their J-frames in many variations. I have carried a Smith & Wesson J-frame in this is a 38 only. I don't even think it's plus P rated. Yeah, 38 special. I have carried a Smith & Wesson J-frame for the last 11 years. This is a 340p. This is their scandium frame titanium cylinder. I carry it with it is loaded, so I'm not going to mess with it right now. I just pulled it out of my holster. I carry it with 38 plus Ps. I don't put the Magnums in it because shooting this with Magnums is like hitting a brick wall with an aluminum bat, man. It just rocks the shit out of your hands. It hurts like hell. So every once in a while I'll go put some mags through it just to remind myself why I don't put mags through it. Mostly 38s. But anyways, they've made a whole lot of these in all kinds of variations, man. Blued and stainless steel, aluminum alloy, scandium alloy, high polish, nickel plated, high polish stainless, brush stainless, just about any variation you can think of, man. They have, some of them have 4 or 5 inch barrels. If you can find some of the older Model 60s and stuff, most of them are these short 1 7/8 or 2 inch barrels. Great little carry guns. They're really reliable, really great little pistols. This little guy here, the guy brought it in, man, it is rusty as all hell, and we're going to try and fix some of that up. But in the meantime, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you how to pull this apart. This has got the extended kind of hoe grip on it, and there's just a screw at the bottom. I've actually pulled those parts out already. It's pretty simple concept. So pull your grip off first, and you'll get this, yeah, okay, there's a roll pin that's punched through the frame here, and that's what rides in those little grooves. So the wood grips that go on these round butts like that, they have a little hole drilled in them to accommodate that there. But basically the way that grip's held on is it's got this little U-shaped thing, and it slides up over that, and then the screw comes in from the bottom. But good grips. I like these hogues. This one's a little bit big. I like mine with a smaller just because it's a little smaller profile for carry, but whatever. From here, this is a slightly later generation. It's got a coil spring instead of a flat spring on it. The ones that have a flat spring on them have a screw right here, and that's what tensions that spring, that mainspring for the hammer. On this one here, what we're going to do is we're going to cock the gun back, and then we're going to take our little fancy high-speed tool, aka the paper clip, and stick it in that little hole right here, kind of like we did with that Ruger revolver. Stick it in there, and we'll let the hammer down slowly on that, and now we've got that spring captured. And I'm going to push it down a little bit and get that little, there we go. I mean, just look at the fucking rust on that thing, dude. Jesus Christ. We're going to clean all this up and put it back together and make sure it's functional for the guy. 3 screws on the side plate. You come out, make sure you're using the right screwdriver for them so you don't booger those screws up, man. Somebody's already been inside of this gun and done it already, but I don't want to tear them up anymore. Get this guy out of there. I've had these things so rusted in, I actually had to use an impact driver to drive them out, man. So, getting this side plate off, everybody has kind of their own idea. I am very much of the traditional mind. I just take the handle of my hammer, and I'll turn the gun over, and I'll smack the bottom side and pop that plate out. And I'm not going to do that on camera, but... And what it does is it wiggles that plate out from its recess there, and that way you can just, I mean, these things are super hand fit. I think they're real tight, but that's how that plate comes off. Just whack it real good with a wooden hammer, you know, the wooden end of your hammer here, and it'll come out. You might have to, you know, give it a couple of whaps like this one if it's, especially, I mean, just look at the bullshit inside of that, man. That thing's nasty. Now, this little guy here, this is your transfer bar, your firing pin transfer bar. There's that guy. From there, you can actually open the cylinder and pull the yoke and crane out. Like so. And then that just slides off the end of the cylinder. You can unscrew these ejector rods, which I'm probably going to do. I can't remember, there was a certain area, so the older ones, and I can't ever remember which way it is. Either way, there's two different variations of this. It either screws on clockwise or counterclockwise, and you just have to friggin' dick with it to figure it out. Typically what I'll do is I'll just get a piece of leather. Oh man, I mushed the shit out of that one. Anyways, a piece of leather on there because I don't want to scratch the knurling up or screw the knurling up if I don't have to. And a pair of vice grips, and I'll grab onto it. And yeah, that one's left-handed threads, man. So if I remember correctly, that's the old, I mean, much older style. But yeah, left-handed threads, and it will unscrew. It's got a spring in there. It is under spring tension, so keep that in mind. And that spring, and there's your actual ejector, locking pin that goes through there. There's another spring, and then this guy will just slide out the front like that. I'm gonna run some goo in there, man. I'm gonna clean all that out to some sort of bore solvent. But that's pretty much all there is to the cylinder. The reason you have to wait is this, the screw that was here on the plate is actually what rides in that little groove right there, and that's what holds that in. I'm going to pull the hammer out next, and what I'll do is I'll put the cylinder lock here. I'll actually pull back on it. You have to, or else the hammer just won't cock back. So you move it out of the way. I don't know if you can see that, how it moves out of the way. And I'll cock it back a little bit so that the hammer nose clears the frame. If the newer styles are a transfer bar, so you don't have to worry about that. But you can see that it clears all those other parts, and I'll just pull the hammer up and out like that, and then you can let off the trigger there. I don't pull any of this stuff out. I don't pull your double action sear out of here, and then it's spring. It's just pinned in. These hammer noses have they're kind of a free float, but they're riveted in. They got a goofy rivet, so don't try and take that out unless this is broken. And these are a bitch to figure out which one it is, man. There was like 1,000 different styles of hammer nose that they used throughout the years. So I mean, sometimes even Smith & Wesson's like, yeah, I can't help you. So you've got to either make one or find one. I don't know. But we'll set that aside. The next thing that we're going to pull out is the rebound slide, which is what this little guy's called, and rebound slide spring. And there's a special tool for that. This little guy here. I've got a couple of them in variations. This one came with that Wheeler Engineering screwdriver set. That you can just, you know, it's just like the other bits. It's not opened up. This one isn't opened up far enough to accommodate the actual pin size on most any one I've ever. You have to go in there and open that up, which is retarded, so I don't ever use it. This one here, I even had to open this one up. This is a Brownells tool that you can get, and they're cheap. I think they're like $5 or $10 or something. But you take that, and you see that right there. See that? Try and make it so you can see it there in the camera right there. That little guy. You see the little spring that's riding on that. It's just a little forked thing that you stick in there. This forking thing. And yeah, this thing's all fucking rusted up too. You pry up, and what it does is it'll capture that spring for you so it doesn't go flying across the shop. And that's your Rebound slide and spring. And then from there, we can take off, or take out, I should say, the trigger and pawl. When you're pulling this out, you have to push that pawl out of its little groove, but don't push too far back. There's a little foot in here that connects the spring that's inside this trigger, and if you go too far back with it, you pop that spring off the leg, and it's a bitch to get back in there, man. But let's see, we're gonna wiggle this guy out like so, kind of the same thing there, and just leave that in. Don't pull that out unless you have to replace the spring or it. There's a little rod or strut there, then that's what pushes on that Rebound spring, and that's what returns your trigger and things like that. These are all penned in real solid. Don't mess with that. Don't pull that out. And I don't know, yeah, right there you can see that little, that's that little leg of the spring I was talking about, that guy right in there. But yeah, it's a pain in the ass if you go too far with that and you pop that off. Oh, it's a pain. So don't do it. Don't do it. Y'all are gonna ignore me. You can do it. You're like, oh, he don't know what he's fucking talking about. I'm just gonna do it. Fuck that guy. You know, fuck that guy. No, don't fucking do it, man. You'll regret it. Then we have the actual cylinder stop here. That little guy, you got to push it down through its little hole. And try and pry up on it at the same time. And there's a spring behind that as well. So let's see if we can. We're gonna have to attack this with multiple tools. There we go. Once you clear that little bastard, its hole, it comes out a lot easier. But because that spring keeps wanting to push it back up in there, be careful not to lose that spring. It's like any other spring in the guns, man. They will go flying the fuck across the shop. Okay, right there. But there's your cylinder stop. Put that in our little baggie. We're gonna flip it over, and we'll pull the screw out for your cylinder lock. And so this is another one of those kind of weirdities too. So this is more of like a cap that threads down on top of the screw. The newer models are actually a screw that fits down inside, and that comes off. And then this guy, there is a spring and detent behind here. So when you pull back on it like this, keep your thumb over it and slide it up and back, and you just need it to, there we go, to clear that nose has got to come out of it fits down in that hole right in there. You'll figure out how to wiggle it out, but the same thing, man, that detent spring, it's gonna want to come flying the fuck out of there. So make sure you capture that. That's all there is to disassembling one of these. You hear people talk about, the sight's off and it's barreled, or it's cocked off to one side or whatever else, and I've seen it. If that's the case, if you've got a new one and the sight's not lined up, like if it's tilted off to one side or another, there's some things you have to remember. One is that Smith & Wesson has a tolerance for that. That's why and this disassembly is pretty much for every Smith & Wesson revolver out there. They are almost all identical in their disassembly. There's some minor things, like I said, flat spring here instead of a coil spring, and some minor differences here, and then in the way your cylinder comes apart. But outside of that, they all come apart identically. Don't worry about driving the pin out for your ejector rod locking mechanism up here. That's part of the lockup of the gun. Unless it's broken, don't dick with that. The stud that prevents the cylinder when it's open from coming from basically backing out this direction, this guy on the frame, I don't know, can you see that? Yeah, there we go. That little stud right there. That's basically staked in. It's not integral to the frame. You can see kind of right there, that little spot, man. That's where it's peened over. This one may even have been replaced once. This is what it looks like. They replaced it once already. But for whatever reason, man, those things break or fall out or whatever, but they can be replaced, man. You pop them back in, you peen them over, or you can, you know, I wouldn't weld it, but just peen it all back over. But yeah, I'm going to try and bust all this rust off of here the best I can without totally screwing the finish on it. Scrub the bore real good. When I'm done with all that, after I got it all oiled and everything and got it back up, I'm not going to run the sonic cleaner on the video because it's annoying as hell. Scrub the gun, man. It's pretty basic, right? I'll get back on here, man, and we'll put her back together.